very well, and when we go to tap it off of Matt's pipe, it's actually going to fall on the ground, and we'll have to end the demo early. So they need to be at very specific heats, even Matt, because if that vase is too cold when that hot glass is introduced, it could crack. So you have to be very careful. And if this goes well, y'all have to give them a round of applause, okay? Because this is very hard to learn, and you break a lot of pieces when you're first starting out. So Paul shaped that up into a nice little sort of olive pointed shape. And Matt is going to try to center that up in line with the base as best he can. Because that's how we're going to get our symmetry when we open up the lid. Otherwise it's kind of like having a flat tire. So here we go. He's adding that little bit of water, cracking it. Hold your breath. There we go. Nice. So Paul had to go right back to the reheating furnace because it's still super cold. It's colder than it's ever been. And cold is a relative term in glass blowing. That's still about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Even though it looks like normal glass and you can touch it, you really don't want it. So right now we have one last chance to center it up with that punchy because the back end where the punny is connecting is still hot enough to move. So if he sees any high spots, he can leverage it at those tweezers, and it'll drop the back end on center.
Yeah.
But now that that's all done, he's just going to go back over here and reheat just the lid as much as he can. I mean, we have to get it a lot hotter than it was before because of how thin it is. So again, it's going to cool down so fast that we won't have a lot of time to work on it once we heat it up a lot more. But also, necking in that jack line with these jacks does a couple of things. Like it does cinch it up, but it also bunches the glass right there. It makes it a lot thicker. So when he comes back to the bench with that heat, he's going to flare it out, make what's called a crown with these tweezers, and then cut straight through it with shears. It's kind of like cut through dangerous Play-Doh. I don't know how many of you have experience with dangerous Play-Doh, but it feels like that. So it takes a lot longer because of how cold that glass is. And certain colors also actually heat up at different rates because they absorb different amounts of energy from a reheating furnace. They absorb or reflect. So black is actually a really good, like soft color and is real easy to heat up because it absorbs all that energy very fast. And then a lot of brighter colors actually work the opposite way. So like white would be really stiff. You have to heat it up for longer. So it's not necessarily that there are easier or harder colors. It's more kind of preference because the stiffer the color is, the more control you have over it, but the less you can kind of shape it. So it's kind of different. So you're going to see that nice orange gradient up to the lip. And also when we broke it off cold earlier, that also makes the glass very uneven because cold glass breaks in uneven ways. So while Matt is doing this, they're actually going to show you a fun little thing called a lip rod. So Paul has another solid steel rod, and he's going to gather a little bit of glass and apply some color over there. So you see he's rolling in a blue frit over there. And what they're going to do is once Matt's all set up and in shape, he's going to try and keep that opening, the lid, very tight right now, so they don't have to go so far. But Paul is going to get that really hot. He's going to come over here. Matt's going to grab the pipe with his tweezers, and then just line it up with the lip. And as he spins, it'll strip off very evenly. That's why Paul had to cone up his little bit, so it strips off nice and even. Because if it's too thick or wider at the end, then too much glass is going to come off on the lip. So now he's just going to heat that up as much as he can. And Matt's going to come back over here, cool down that lip a little bit, and just shape it. So steel tools like the jacks also cool down the glass much more than other tools like our wood tools. Much like the marber. So you see he just sticks it on right there and strips it off. And because it's so hot right there, you can just pull back really fast and it gets so thin that it just breaks. So Paul's going to show you an example of what I'm talking about when I say that the thinner the glass gets, the faster it cools off. So over the top there, it's still super hot because it's really bunched up glass. But down where he stretched it, it's already cold enough that he can just touch it. Now you can also touch it, but you're not allowed to. So that's also actually how you get different color patterns. Like if you notice in the Native American room with all those baskets, how they have those very thin lines over it. That's just stretched out color into very thin things called stringer. And then you set it out either on a marber or a hot plate, and you can roll it up when you apply that color. So Paul just gave it a little bit of a paddle to even it out as Matt opened it. And all that fire you might see is just wax burning up, either inside the base or on, yeah, like that. But that's her piece. Can you guys show you the color there? This is pretty much what the base is going to look like. Some colors, actually, when they're this hot, they change a little bit. They look more orange, or like yellow actually turns red. So, especially when you're working on it really hot, and you have a lot of different color applications, you kind of have to memorize what is what, because it doesn't look the same. But now, we have one last step, and that's to load it into these ovens right next to me called annealers. And they run at about 955 degrees, about 500 Celsius. And that's because if we just let this out, it would cool down so fast that it would crack. It would crack itself and break. It's called thermal shock. So we put it in these ovens, and at the end of the day, we actually run a program, and it slowly cools it overnight. So you have to anneal. That's what it's called, cooling down glass slowly in a hot enough environment. You have to anneal glass for different lengths of time based on how thick the glass is. Because the thicker it is, the less readily it will release its heat. So he's going to add a little bit of water to that punny line and crack it right where we want it to break. And with a little tap, it comes right off. But it's still super sharp on the back end, so he's going to use this hot torch, about 4,000 degree torch, about 2,000 Celsius, and just melts that in and gets it hot enough for a community hot shop stamp, so you know where it was made. And that's a piece. There we go. Okay, give them one last round of applause, everybody. Did a great job. And before you go, I'd like to tell you one thing. This is the community hot shop, as I mentioned, and that's because we give back to the community with the pieces that we make. So when they're finished, they actually get sold at the Space Needle for less than $100, but all the proceeds go to support local arts organizations, and they give a lot of scholarships to kids and other programs as well. But you can learn more on the website, and come up to us if you have any questions, but otherwise, thank you and have a good day.